Hannah was 35 years old. She was by any definition a big woman. But in her size there was a special kind of charm that drew people in. She was not slim like the women who adorned the covers of fashion magazines. No, Hannah was fat, and in her fatness, she possessed a warmth that could fill a room and a smile that felt like the morning sun. Her laughter was not a quiet tinkle. It was a full rolling sound that could swallow away your sadness. Her hugs were enveloping, a fortress against the world's troubles. But beneath the soft heart and the warm smile was a determination that could, if necessary, shake a mountain. She had married Samuel when they possessed nothing but each other. Samuel was a striking man, tall, dark, and handsome, with an intelligent mind that could dissect any problem. But life, in its indifferent cruelty, had not yet given him a chance. His intelligence was a sharp blade locked in a box, and he felt the frustration of it every single day. They lived in a single cramped room in a crowded tenement building in Lagos. It was a city that buzzed with life, but they were trapped in its smallest, darkest corner. The zinc roof above their heads was a constant reminder of their poverty. Whenever the heavy tropical rain fell, it didn't just leak, it wept. The sound was a deafening, metallic drumming that made conversation impossible and sleep a distant dream. The air was always thick, with the competing smells of cooking oil, dampness, and the faint, sharp tang of mildew that clung to the walls. No matter how hard Hannah scrubbed, their bed was small, barely large enough for two, let alone a family, and it sagged in the middle. Their wardrobe was not a piece of furniture but a simple wooden box, tilted precariously on bricks. Sometimes when the small gas cylinder ran out long before the end of the month, Hannah would move to the small shared backyard. She would balance a pot on 3 blackened stones, cooking with firewood. The smoke would sting her eyes and cling to her clothes, a scent of poverty she carried with her, but she never complained. Complaining, Hannah often thought, was a luxury. Complaining didn't put food on the table, and it certainly wouldn't fix the leaking roof. She was a fortress of positivity for her husband. Whenever Samuel came home, his tall frame slumped with the exhaustion of walking the city, his face a mask of defeat after another fruitless day of job hunting, Hannah would go to him. She would gently rub his back, her large, soft hands working the tension from his shoulders. "Don't worry, my love," she would say, her voice a soft balm on his raw spirit. "Don't you worry. One day everything will change. I see it clearly, Samuel. This room, this leaking roof, it will all be a memory." She would lean back, her eyes shining with an unshakable faith that he himself had lost. "You will sit in a big office, Samuel, a tall building with cool air. You will wear a sharp suit and a bright tie. You will drive your own car, a shiny one, and people will stop and call you sir. They will respect you." Samuel would manage a weak smile, his heart aching because he wanted to believe her, but the reality of their life pressed in on him. "Amen, my love. Amen. But look at us, Hannah. Just look at where we are. This is not the life I promised you." Hannah would touch his cheek with her chubby hand, her gaze firm. "Where we are does not matter. Who we are matters more. I don't see these 4 walls, Samuel. I see you. I believe in you. I know you are going far, and I will be right beside you when you get there." They had 2 children, 2 small lights in their difficult world. Joyce, a serious and bright girl of 8, and Ben, a boy of 5 who had his father's smile and his mother's laughter. Life was not just hard, it was a daily grinding battle. But Hannah carried the weight of the family like a lioness protecting her cubs. She was the first to wake, long before the first call to prayer echoed through the city. She would set up her small stall by the roadside, the air filling with the savory, nutty smell of the akara she fried, selling the hot bean cakes to neighbors and workers rushing to their own jobs. The hot oil would often spatter, leaving small burns on her arms, but she ignored the sting. When the morning rush was over, she didn't rest. Sometimes she cleaned offices in the afternoon, the sharp smell of bleach and floor polish filling her nose. Sometimes she helped people wash clothes, her hands becoming raw and chapped from the harsh soap and endless wringing. Every single kobo she made, every crumpled note and heavy coin she brought home. She would find Samuel sitting on the bed, staring at the wall, and she would press the day's earnings into his hand. "Samuel, keep this," she would say, her voice gentle but firm. "Go and buy the newspaper. Buy 2 different ones. Search for jobs again. Don't you give up. Don't you dare give up on me or on yourself." Samuel, though consumed with the shame of taking money from his wife, of being the one who stayed home while she toiled, always obeyed. He hated the feeling, the acidic taste of failure in his mouth. But her fire was the only thing keeping his own embers from dying out. He would take the money, smooth out the notes, and walk to the junction to buy the papers, his heart a heavy stone in his chest. The turning point came on a humid Tuesday, the air so thick it felt like you could drink it. Hannah was at her stall, wrapping a fresh batch of akara, when a friend, a woman who bought from her every morning, stopped to chat. The friend mentioned a vacancy in a big company where her cousin worked. It was an entry-level position, but it was in a real office. Hannah didn't wait. She didn't finish selling her goods. She packed up her things, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. She rushed home, half running through the crowded streets, dodging carts and people. She burst into the room. Samuel was lying on the bed, asleep in the midday heat, escaping his reality for a few hours. "Samuel, get up," she called, her voice urgent. He jolted awake, confused. "Hannah, what is it? Is something wrong?" "Get up," she said, pulling his best shirt from the wooden box. It was old, but it was clean. "Wear your best shirt. Comb your hair. There is an interview happening today. A real company. My friend told me. Go and try." Samuel sighed, the familiar fog of despair settling back over him. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. "Ah, Hannah, another one? What's the point? Those people in those big fancy buildings, they don't want people like me. They want someone who already looks the part, someone who speaks with a polished accent. I've tried and I've tried. Hannah, I'm tired. I am just so tired of the rejection." Hannah stood firm. Her usual warmth vanished, replaced by that mountain-shaking determination. Her hands were on her hips, her chin high. "Tired," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "You are tired. What about me?" From that day their lives began to change. Not in a sudden dramatic flood, but slowly like a tide, rising almost imperceptibly. Samuel's first day at the office was a shock to his system. He left their single room, the smell of firewood smoke and damp still clinging to him, and boarded a crowded bus. An hour later he walked into a glass tower that seemed to scrape the sky. The moment the automatic doors slid open, he was hit by a blast of cold, conditioned air that smelled impossibly clean, like chemicals and expensive coffee. It was a stark contrast to the humid, thick air of his neighborhood. Men and women rushed past him in sharp suits and high heels, their footsteps muffled by the plush gray carpet. The only sounds were the polite chime of telephones and the quiet, rapid tapping of keyboards. He felt like an imposter. His one best shirt felt rough and cheap against his skin. He was acutely aware of his old shoes, the ones Hannah had polished, and he found himself walking on his toes, as if trying to minimize his contact with the expensive floor. "You must be Samuel," a polite receptionist said, not looking up. 12th floor. Mr. Adebayo's department. He spent the first few weeks in a state of quiet terror. He was intelligent, just as Hannah had always said, but this was a different world. The language was different, full of corporate jargon and casual assumptions about wealth he couldn't understand. His colleagues were polite but distant. They went for lunch at places that cost more than he and Hannah spent on food in 3 days. He would politely decline, claiming he had brought food from home, and would instead eat the small wrap of Iba Hannah had packed for him in a shared break room, his heart pounding with a mixture of shame and gratitude. But Samuel was a dedicated worker. He poured every ounce of his frustration and ambition into the job. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave. His intelligence once trapped was now unleashed. He saw patterns in the numbers that others missed. He drafted reports that were clear, concise, and insightful. His bosses, who initially saw him as just another hire, began to notice. His dedication was sharp, and his intelligence shone like a beacon. At home, Hannah continued to sell akara, but now she added bread and bottled drinks. Their combined income meant they were surviving better. There was always gas in the cylinder. They could buy medicine when Ben had a fever. Within 5 years, Samuel's trajectory had been meteoric. His bosses loved him. He had moved from a struggling applicant to an entry-level clerk, then to an analyst, and finally to a manager, overseeing his own team. With the new title came a fat salary, a company car, and a level of respect he had only dreamed of. The first thing they did was move. They left the one-room apartment in the crowded tenement. As they carried their few belongings out, the new better mattress, the actual wardrobe, the small television, Hannah paused at the doorway of the empty room. The stains from the leaks still decorated the walls. She reached out and touched the discolored plaster right under the spot where the zinc roof had wept for so long. She whispered, "Thank you." Tears streamed down her face. Samuel, standing behind her and impatient to leave, hugged her. "Hannah, you are a strange woman," he said, laughing gently. "You are thanking a leaking roof that made us miserable." Hannah smiled through her tears, leaning back against his chest. "I am a grateful woman," she replied, her voice thick. "This room sheltered us when we had nothing. It heard all my prayers. I am thanking it for finally letting us go." They moved into a 2-bedroom flat in a much better neighborhood. It had a real kitchen, a separate living room, and a roof that did not leak. Joyce and Ben were ecstatic. They ran back and forth, claiming their own room, jumping on their own beds. Hannah wept again as she turned on the kitchen tap and clean water flowed out immediately. Their children now went to better schools, wearing smart uniforms and carrying new backpacks. Samuel, reveling in his new role as a provider, started buying Hannah gifts. He brought home expensive wrappers in vibrant colors, delicate gold jewelry, expensive handbags, and eventually a small car for her to use. Life was sweet. The bitterness of their poverty began to fade, replaced by the comfort of security. But something else also changed. It was subtle at first, as slow as their climb had been. Samuel, now rich, respected, and exposed to a different class of people, began to see the world differently. His colleagues, the ones he now went to lunch with, had wives who were a certain type. They were slim, wore expensive makeup, had perfectly manicled nails, and looked like models. They spoke about diets, fitness trainers, and weekend trips to resorts. Hannah, with her big, beautiful body, her simple ways, and her hands still rough from years of work, did not match that picture. She was still the woman who preferred to cook at home, whose greatest joy was laughing with her children. At first, the comments were small, disguised as concern. "Hannah, my love," he'd say, patting her stomach as they sat watching television. Your stomach is getting too big. You should try and reduce your food." Hannah would laugh, a little uncomfortably. "Ah, it is the children's fault. And your good money providing too much food." Later the comments became sharper. "Look at your arms, Hannah. They are like yam tubers. My colleagues' wives, they all go to the gym. You should try exercise." Sometimes he said it as a joke in front of his new friends when they visited. They would come to the new flat, drink his expensive wine, and Samuel would say, "My wife is the best cook. That's why she is my original heavy-duty woman." His friends would laugh, a polite, thin sound, and Hannah would laugh too, her smile wide, playing the part of the happy, carefree wife. But her heart bled inside. Each laugh was a small cut, a tiny betrayal. She was the same woman he had clung to in the one-room apartment. Why was the body he had cherished then a source of shame for him now? One evening, she decided to surprise him. She had used some of the money he gave her to have a new gown sewn. It was for a church event they were attending. The fabric was a beautiful deep red, and she felt elegant in it. She stood before him in the bedroom, smoothing the fabric over her hips, her smile a little shy, feeling like the girl he had first married. "How do I look, my love?" she asked, turning for him. Samuel looked up from the business report he was reading on his laptop. His eyes scanned her, from her new shoes up to her smiling face. The smile on his own face didn't just fade, it was replaced by a look of faint disgust. He hissed, a small sharp sound that cut the air. "How do you look?" he repeated. "You look like a bag of rice tied with a ribbon. Why do you waste money sewing gowns that only make you look bigger? Why don't you use that money to reduce your weight?" The words cut her like a knife. The air in her lungs evaporated. Her shy smile froze, cracked, and then dissolved. She couldn't speak. She just stared at him, the bright red of the dress suddenly feeling garish and foolish. "I thought you would like the color," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's not the color, it's the size, Hannah," he said dismissively, already turning back to his laptop. "Just go and change. We'll be late." She went inside their bedroom, closed the door silently, and sat on the edge of their expensive, comfortable bed. She didn't make a sound, she just cried silently, the tears running hot tracks down her cheeks, dripping onto the beautiful red fabric. She remembered the days he had nothing. She remembered the day she had taken her own mother's last piece of jewelry, a gold necklace, and pawned it to buy him the shoes he wore for his first interview. She remembered frying akara by the roadside, her back aching, her skin burning, every single day, to put money in his hand for newspapers. Now the man she had sacrificed everything for, the man she had built from the ground up, was mocking her body. But she kept quiet. She did not raise her voice. She did not want her children to see them quarrel. She quietly changed out of the red dress, folded it, and pushed it to the very back of the new wardrobe. At night, when Samuel slept beside her, his breathing heavy, his body turned away from her, Hannah often turned her face to the wall and let the tears roll down. She prayed silently, her hands clasped over her chest. "God," she whispered into the darkness of the comfortable room, "I love this man. I carried him when he had nothing. I polished his shoes when nobody respected him. Now that he is a big man, he insults me. Father, help me. What am I doing wrong? Please don't let my marriage scatter." She thought of dieting. She tried, but the stress of his words, the deep, gnawing anxiety, only made her want to eat again. She thought of joining a gym, as he suggested, but she was intimidated, and with the children's school runs and managing the house, the time and money didn't seem to allow it. Still, she tried little by little, walking in the evenings, but no matter what she did, it wasn't fast enough for him. Samuel's words grew harsher. He would come home smelling of strange, sweet perfume that wasn't hers. He stayed longer and longer at work meetings. Sometimes when she called his phone to ask when he was coming home for dinner, he ignored her calls. One evening, Joyce, their daughter, was sitting at the table doing her homework. Hannah sat beside her, her face drawn. Samuel had not been home for dinner in 3 days. "Mommy," Joyce asked, her 8-year-old face serious, "why is Daddy always angry with you? You don't laugh like you used to." Hannah forced a smile, her heart cracking. She reached out and smoothed her daughter's hair. "Don't worry, my daughter. Daddy is just tired from work. He has a very big job, you know." But deep inside, her heart was no longer just bleeding, it was cracking. Samuel was no longer the man Hannah had married, nor the man she had helped build. The man who used to run home to her smile, to her food, and to her laughter, now came home late every day. When he did come home, he carried a scent that was not his own, a heavy, sweet perfume that clung to his clothes and seemed to announce a life lived elsewhere. Hannah tried to pretend she didn't notice. Not at first, she told herself it was work. He's a big man now, she reasoned. He must attend many important meetings with important people. She told herself it was just stress. The pressure must be immense, but deep inside, her heart, which had been so sure and strong for so long, began to harbor a cold, gnawing fear. One night, he walked in very late, well past midnight. The children were long asleep, and the amala soup she had kept warm for him had long gone cold on the stove. She heard his keys fumble at the door and sat up in bed, her heart pounding. He stumbled in, dropping his car keys on the glass dining table with a loud, sharp bang that split the silence of the house. "Samuel?" she asked gently, her voice soft in the darkness. "You are very late. The children. They waited for you. They ask of you." Samuel didn't turn to her. He loosened his tie with a sharp, angry tug. His eyes, when he finally looked at her in the dim light from the hallway, were red and unfamiliar. "Must you always nag me, Hannah?" he snapped, his voice cold and sharp. "Is it your business when I come home? Am I a child that you must wait up for?" Hannah recoiled as if he had struck her. I was just worried." He let out a harsh laugh and switched on the light, making her blink. He pointed a finger at her. "Worried? Or just nosy? Look at you." He gestured at her simple nightgown. "Fat, sweaty, smelling of food oil. You disgust me. Don't you ever question me again. I am the man of this house." His words cut her heart like a shard of glass. Hannah's eyes filled instantly with tears. She turned her face away so he would not see her cry, but it was too late. He had seen and he didn't care. Joyce, woken by the loud voices, was standing in the doorway of her room, her small face pale with fear. She held her mother's wrapper tightly, whispering, "Mommy, sorry. Don't cry." Samuel saw the child, but his anger didn't subside. He just hissed again and stormed into the bathroom, slamming the door. He was now seeing another woman. Her name was Chloe. Chloe was everything Hannah was not. She was beautiful in the way magazines demanded, impossibly slim, with long, straight hair and flawless dark skin. She loved wearing tight, fitted dresses that showed off her figure and bright red lipstick that matched her sharp, manicured nails. She worked in the marketing department of another firm, and she moved through the world with a sleek, predatory confidence. She didn't care about Hannah. She didn't care about the children. She only cared about herself, her status, and Samuel's money. "You know I love you, Samuel," she would murmur, tracing the lapel of his expensive suit as they sat in a dark, exclusive restaurant. The air around them smelled of wine and roasted meat. A world away from Hannah's kitchen. "You are a big man now. A king. But a king needs a queen who looks the part. Why are you still keeping that fat woman in your house?" Samuel would sip his drink, the alcohol warming his gut, the flattery warming his ego. "Chloe, baby, it's not that simple. I have to think of the children." Chloe would roll her eyes, a perfect practiced gesture of annoyance. "Children, they will survive. Everyone's children survive. Be fast, Samuel. I am not a woman who likes to share. I don't want to continue being your secret. You deserve better, and I." She smiled, leaning in to kiss him. "Am better." Samuel nodded, his resolve weakening. "Don't worry," he whispered back. Soon, very soon. Back at home, Hannah waited. Every night became a new torment. She cooked his favorite food, but Samuel no longer touched it. He would claim he ate at a business dinner. She wore her best wrapper, the expensive one he had bought her years ago, but Samuel no longer looked at her, his eyes sliding past her as if she were a piece of furniture. The silence in the house grew heavy and cold. The only sounds were the children's quiet play and the ticking of the clock, counting down the hours until Samuel's late, angry return. One night, after he had been home for less than 10 minutes and was already changing to go out again, she gathered the last shreds of her courage. "Samuel," she said, her voice trembling, is there another woman? Please, if there is, just tell me the truth. I deserve the truth." Samuel's face twisted with a terrible venomous anger. He spun around, his shirt half buttoned. "Are you mad? Who do you think you are to question me? My God, Hannah. Just look at yourself." He gestured dismissively at her entire body. "Look at your fat body, your ugly hanging arms. Do you think any man, any real man, wants a woman like you? I am even ashamed to take you out. I am ashamed for people to know you are my wife. Be grateful I still let you stay in my house." Hannah broke down. She didn't cry silently this time. A loud, wounded sob tore from her throat. "Samuel, after all I did for you, after all I sacrificed, I carried this family when you had nothing. I believed in you when the entire world mocked you. I fried a kara in the street for you. And this is how you pay me back." But Samuel only hissed, a sound of pure contempt. He picked his car keys back up from the table. "Your noise is giving me a headache." He stormed out of the house again, the front door slamming shut, leaving her sobbing on the floor. The children were not too young to understand. Joyce ran to her mother, hugging her shoulders as she wept. "Mommy, why doesn't Daddy love you anymore? Why does he always go out and come back angry?" Hannah hugged her tightly, her tears soaking her daughter's hair. She tried to find the words of reassurance, the ones she used to have. "Don't worry, my daughter. Daddy is just busy." But the words sounded hollow, a lie even to her own ears. Every insult Samuel gave her replayed in her head, a non-stop loop of cruelty. Fat, ugly, disgusting, ashamed. Every time he came home smelling of Chloe's perfume, it was like a fresh stab to her soul. At night she prayed, but her prayers had changed. "God," she whispered, her face buried in the pillow he no longer shared. "I am not asking for wealth. You already gave us that. I am not asking for beauty. I am only asking for love and peace in my home. Why is Samuel treating me like this? Please God, bring my husband back." One afternoon, Hannah saw Chloe for the first time. It was a terrible coincidence. Samuel had dropped Chloe near their street. A foolish, arrogant mistake, forgetting that Hannah would be returning from the market at exactly that time. Hannah was walking, a heavy basket of yams and tomatoes balanced on her head. She saw Samuel's shiny black car pull over. She smiled, thinking he had come home early. But then the passenger door opened. A woman emerged, a tall, slim woman in a sharp red dress that seemed poured onto her body. She had long, flowing hair and she turned to kiss Samuel. It was not a friendly peck. It was a long, possessive kiss. Hannah froze. The world tilted. The basket on her head wobbled, and then crashed to the ground. Yams and red tomatoes scattered across the dusty road. The noise made the woman, Chloe, turn. She saw Hannah standing there, in her simple wrapper, her face a mask of shock and pain, staring at the ruined food at her feet. Chloe didn't look guilty. She looked amused. She said, leaving Samuel in the car, and walked slowly toward Hannah. She stopped just a few feet away, looking her up and down with a sly, insulting smile. "So," Chloe said, her voice smooth as silk, "you are the wife." She let out a small laugh. "Ah, now I see why Samuel is so ashamed of you. Look at you, fat, old and dull. Do you really think you can keep a man like him with this?" She gestured at Hannah. "Wake up, madam. Samuel is mine now." Hannah's basket was still on the ground. Tears burned her eyes, blurring the image of this beautiful, cruel woman, but she said nothing. She couldn't find her voice. She just bent down, her hands shaking, and began to pick up the scattered tomatoes, her tears dropping onto the dusty ground. Chloe watched her for another moment, then laughed again, turned, and got back into the car. The car sped away, leaving Hannah alone on her knees in the dirt. That night, when Samuel returned, Hannah begged him. She had no pride left, only desperation. "Samuel, please," she wept, kneeling before him as he walked in. "Don't destroy this home. I saw her, please. The children need you. I need you. Don't let that woman scatter what we built together for all these years." But Samuel's face was stone. He looked down at her with pure hatred. "Shut up, Hannah. Don't you ever mention her name again. If not for those children, I would have thrown you out of this house already. You are a disgrace to me. You are too fat, too old, too local. I regret the day I ever met you. I regret ever marrying you." Hannah fell to the floor, crying bitterly. Her chest hurt so much it felt as if someone had physically reached in and torn her heart out. Days turned into weeks. Samuel now spent more time at Chloe's house than his own. He bought her expensive wigs, designer perfumes, and dresses Hannah could only dream of. He took her out to restaurants, hotels, and even his own company's business parties, introducing her to his colleagues as a close family friend. At home, Hannah suffered. The children suffered. There was less money for food and school supplies, because Samuel was spending most of it on Chloe. Hannah, swallowing her pride, took out her old frying pan. She returned to the roadside, frying akara in the early mornings, just to make sure Joyce and Ben had something to eat. The neighbors began to gossip. Their whispers broke Hannah's heart even more, but she kept pushing for her children. She refused to give up on them. One evening, Chloe sat with Samuel in her luxurious living room, resting her head on his shoulder. "Samuel, you know I love you," she pouted, "but I am tired of waiting. Throw that fat woman out. Divorce her. She doesn't deserve you." Samuel kissed her forehead. "I will, baby. Don't worry. Soon, very soon. Better be fast," Chloe insisted. "I can't keep sharing you. You are mine and mine alone." Samuel nodded, but his heart for just a second felt restless. That night, Hannah sat alone in her own living room. The children were asleep. She looked at the wedding picture on the wall, Samuel smiling, holding her tightly. That smile was gone. That love was gone. She whispered to herself, the tears rolling down her cheeks as she hugged her own arms. So this is how love dies. So this is how a woman who gave everything becomes nothing. God, why me? And in that quiet, broken night, Hannah knew something had changed forever. Her life would never ever be the same again. Days bled into one another, each one a gray, muted echo of the last. Hannah's sadness grew deeper, settling into her bones like a cold mist. She barely slept anymore, spending most nights sitting by the living room window, staring at the quiet, indifferent sky, whispering prayers that seemed to bounce back in silence. Her heart was breaking slowly, but it was also hardening. She realized that her tears, her prayers, and her quiet suffering were doing nothing. Samuel was lost to her. After another sleepless night spent waiting for a car that never came, Hannah finally decided she couldn't keep quiet anymore. She had to do something. She wiped her face, the skin around her eyes tight and swollen from crying. She dressed herself neatly in one of her simple, modest gowns. She looked at her reflection in the mirror, the face of a tired, heartbroken woman. "This is not me," she thought. "I am a fighter. I fought for him, and now I will fight for my home." She decided to take a bus to see Samuel's elder brother Thomas. Thomas was a kind man, simple, honest, and respected by everyone in their family. He was older than Samuel by 10 years and had a quiet authority. He had always been kind to Hannah, treating her with a respect that Samuel had long forgotten. When Hannah arrived at his small but well-kept house, her eyes were already red and swollen. Thomas was sitting on his veranda, reading a newspaper. He looked up and saw her standing at the gate, and his kind face immediately creased with worry. "Hannah," he asked softly, folding his paper. "What is it? What has happened? You look—" She couldn't hold it in. The moment his kind eyes met hers, the dam of her composure broke. She broke down immediately, stumbling forward and falling on her knees before him on the dusty veranda. "Brother Thomas," she wept, her voice choked and broken. "Please, please talk to your brother for me. Please help me." Thomas was alarmed. He stood up quickly, trying to lift her. "Hannah, get up, get up. What is this? What has he done?" But she couldn't get up. She clung to his trousers. "He no longer cares for me, brother. He no longer cares for the children. He insults me every day. He calls me fat. He says I disgust him." The words tumbled out, coated in shame and pain. Hannah has another woman, a slim, beautiful woman named Chloe. He spends all his money on her. He abandons us at home. Please, brother Thomas, help me before I lose my home completely." Thomas sighed deeply, a long, heavy sound of profound disappointment. He shook his head slowly, his heart aching for this good woman. He knew his brother. He had seen the pride growing in him, had worried about the speed of his success. "Hannah, stop crying. Get up," he said firmly but gently, finally helping her to a chair. "You are a good woman. I have not forgotten. I know what you did for Samuel when he had nothing. I remember, don't worry. I will talk to him." Hannah looked up, fresh tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you, brother. Thank you. I don't want to lose my marriage. I just want my husband back. I just want peace." Thomas placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. His face was set in a grim, determined line. "Go home, Hannah. Take care of the children. I will handle this." The very next day, Thomas decided to surprise his younger brother at work. He didn't call. He simply showed up at the massive glass building. He walked into the opulent lobby, his simple clothes standing in stark contrast to the marble floors and expensive suits. When he reached the 12th floor, Samuel's secretary, a young woman who looked exactly like the type Samuel now admired, tried to stop him. "Can I help you, sir? Do you have an appointment?" "I am his brother," Thomas said, his voice calm and firm, and he walked past her before she could protest. Samuel was sitting in his big leather office chair, his feet up on the mahogany desk, scrolling through his phone and smiling at a message. He looked up when the door opened, his smile fading into a look of irritation, which then quickly morphed into surprise. "Brother?" he said, standing up quickly, his smile becoming awkward and forced. "Brother Thomas, you didn't tell me you were coming. What a surprise. Sit down, sit down." But Thomas didn't smile back. He didn't move to sit. He just stood in the middle of the expensive office, his gaze serious and calm, but his eyes firm as steel. He looked around the room, the glass walls, the view of Lagos, the symbols of his brother's success. "Samuel," he said, his voice low, "sit down." The command was quiet, but it had weight. Samuel's smile faltered. He frowned a little, feeling a sudden chill, but he obeyed, lowering himself back into his chair, no longer lounging. "Brother, what's wrong? You look serious." Thomas placed both hands on the polished desk and leaned forward, staring directly into his brother's eyes. "You are what's wrong. Samuel, have you forgotten? Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten how you started?" Samuel stiffened. "Brother, what is this about?" "This is about Hannah," Thomas said, his voice cutting through the quiet office. "This is about the woman who built you up when you had nothing. The woman who sold a kara on the roadside to feed you and your children, to buy you the newspapers you used to find this very job. Have you forgotten her?" Samuel tried to speak, his face flushing with anger. "Brother, please, don't believe everything she..." Thomas slammed his hand flat on the desk. The sound was like a gunshot in the silent room. "Keep quiet," he commanded, his voice no longer calm. "Just listen. When you were broke and living in that one-room shack, you didn't notice she was fat. When you were hungry and had no food to eat, her food was the sweetest thing you had ever tasted. When you had no job and no hope, she was the only one who stood by you, who told you that you were a king. Now that you have money, now that you sit in this big chair, she is suddenly not good enough for you. You call her fat, you insult her, you cheat on her." Samuel looked down, a flicker of shame crossing his features, but it was quickly replaced by the hard wall of his pride. Thomas continued, his voice thick with contempt. "You have abandoned your family. Your children are crying. Your wife is on her knees. All for what? For some other woman who doesn't care about you. Only about this." He swept his hand around the office. "This money. I am ashamed of you, Samuel. Our father would be ashamed of you. You are a disgrace." Thomas straightened up, his face a mask of disgust. He turned to leave. "If you keep walking this road, Samuel, you will lose everything. Everything that truly matters." Without another word, he turned and walked out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed in the room. Samuel sat there frozen, but it was not with remorse. He was sweating, his jaw tight, his hands clenched into fists. He wasn't angry at himself. He was furious at Hannah. How dare she, he thought, his blood pounding in his ears. How dare she go and report me to my brother? To embarrass me? To try and make me look like a fool? His pride, wounded by his brother's words, transformed into a white-hot rage. He grabbed his car keys. He was done. That evening when Samuel returned home, he was not just angry. He was breathing fire. Hannah was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. She had felt a small sliver of hope after talking to Thomas. Maybe, just maybe, things would get better. The children were in the living room, quietly doing their homework. The front door crashed open, slamming against the wall so hard that a picture frame fell to the floor and shattered. The children screamed in fear. Hannah, Samuel bellowed. His voice was not human. It was a roar. Hannah came out quietly from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her wrapper, her heart pounding with a new sudden terror. Yes, Samuel, welcome. He marched toward her, his eyes red. He pointed an accusing finger at her face. So, you went to report me. You went to my brother to report me, eh? You want to make me look like a fool? You want to destroy my name? Hannah's heart pounded so hard, she thought it would burst. Samuel, please, she stammered. I only wanted him to talk to you. I didn't mean any harm. You don't listen to me anymore. I just wanted peace. Before she could finish the sentence, he slapped her. His hand moved so fast she barely registered the intent. The sound of his palm connecting with her cheek was not a dull thud, but a sharp, deafening crack that seemed to suck all the air out of the room. The children screamed at the exact same instant. Mommy! Hannah's head snapped to the side, a universe of bright white stars exploding behind her eyes. Then came the pain, a blooming fiery sting that radiated from her jaw to her ear. She tasted the coppery tang of blood in her mouth, where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. You shameless woman, he screamed, his face contorted. You want to embarrass me, you fat fool. He hit her again, a backhand this time, and the force of it sent her sprawling to the floor. The children ran, screaming and crying. Daddy, stop! Daddy, stop hurting Mommy. Joyce tried to get between them, pulling on her father's shirt, but Samuel pushed his daughter away. He stood over Hannah, who was dazed and crying on the floor. Get out, he roared. Get out of my house. I am done with you. Tears streamed down Hannah's face as she crawled up, holding her stinging cheek. Samuel, please, please don't do this. Not in front of the children. Please leave now, he shouted, his voice hoarse with rage. I don't ever want to see your fat, ugly face again. He grabbed her small handbag from the side table. He went to the bedroom, grabbed a few of her wrappers from the wardrobe, threw them into a small gobbo bag, and threw it all out the front door, onto the dirty compound ground. He came back, grabbed her by the arm, and began to drag her toward the door. Joyce ran after her mother, crying hysterically, Mommy, Mommy, don't go, don't leave us. Little Ben held onto her wrapper tightly, his face buried in her clothes, his small body shaking with sobs. Mommy, please don't leave us. Please. Hannah knelt on the doorstep, her heart shattering into a million pieces. She grabbed her children, hugging them tightly, her tears falling freely onto their heads. My babies, she choked out. My babies, I love you. Don't cry. Be good. I will come for you. I promise. I promise. Children, Samuel shouted, come inside now. But they refused to move. They clung to their mother, their wails echoing in the night. I said, get out. Samuel yelled at Hannah. She had no choice. She kissed both of them, her hands shaking. I love you. I love you. She stood up. She picked up her small bag from the dirt, barefoot, broken, and with the print of his hand burning on her face. Hannah walked away from the home she had built, leaving the sound of her children screaming her name behind her. Hannah walked. She didn't know for how long. The sound of her children's screams. Mommy, don't go. Mommy was a physical force, pushing her forward, while simultaneously a hook in her heart, pulling her back. She walked barefoot, her feet, accustomed to the soft rugs of her flat, now met the sharp gravel and cold broken pavement of the Lagos streets. Each step was a small, sharp pain, a tiny echo of the massive exploding agony in her cheek and the gaping hole in her chest. The thought was a dull, thudding repetition, a single drumbeat in the chaos of her mind. He actually hit me. Samuel. Her Samuel. The man whose shoes she had polished, whose shirts she had ironed, whose children she had borne, the man she had fed with her own hands, whose spirit she had shielded with her own body. That man had raised his hand and struck her. The sting on her face was still hot, a burning brand of his contempt. She could still taste the metallic tang of blood inside her mouth. My babies, oh God, my babies. She could see their faces, distorted by terror and tears. Joyce, her brave, serious girl, trying to pull her father away. Little Ben, his face buried in her wrapper, his small body shaking with sobs. She had been forced to leave them. She had promised to come back for them. But how? She had nothing. She was nothing. Just a fat, ugly, shameless fool. Just as he'd said. The night air was cool, but she was sweating. A cold, clammy sweat of shock and fear. The sounds of the city swirled around her, but they felt distant, as if she were walking at the bottom of an ocean. A generator roared to life nearby, its loud hum a familiar Lagos comfort that now felt like a threat. Music from a distant bar, people laughing, a dog barking, it all seemed obscene. How could the world continue? How could people laugh when her own life had just shattered into a million pieces? She clutched the small, cheap bag he had thrown at her. It contained 2 wrappers, her church handkerchief, and she discovered as her fumbling fingers checked, no money. Not a single kobo. He had thrown her out with nothing. Where do I go? The question was terrifying. She had no family nearby. Her parents were in the village, a world away, and she couldn't bear the shame of appearing before them like this. Then, a name. Maria. Her old friend Maria, the one who had always told her she was too good for Samuel. Even in the beginning, Maria lived 2, maybe 3, miles away. It was a long walk, a long, dark, dangerous walk for a woman alone at night, barefoot, but it was her only hope. She put her head down, pulling her remaining wrapper tighter around her, and began to walk, trying to make herself as small as possible, to become just another shadow in the night. The shame was a heavy cloak, heavier than any physical weight. What would she say? How could she explain this humiliation? She, Hannah, the wife of the big man, the success story of their old neighborhood, was now a beggar, locked out of her own home. Samuel's words echoed in her head, a cruel chorus, fat, disgusting, shameless, I regret ever marrying you. She walked for what felt like an eternity. Her feet were no longer just sore, they were numb, and she suspected they were bleeding. Twice, a car slowed down, men calling out to her, and she had to duck into a dark alley, her heart pounding with a new, different kind of fear, until they drove on. She was just another piece of trash on the street, available to anyone. Finally, her body shaking with exhaustion, she reached Maria's street. It was quieter here. She stood in front of the small, neat gate, her hand hovering over the metal, unable to knock. The embarrassment was suffocating. She was bringing her failure, her shame, her brokenness to her friend's peaceful doorstep in the middle of the night. She was a storm, and she was about to wreck Maria's sleep. She leaned her head against the cold metal gate, a new wave of sobs shaking her. I can't do this to her. But she had nowhere else to go. She knocked. It was not a loud, confident knock. It was a weak, trembling tap, barely audible. Please, God. Please let her be awake. Please let her open. She knocked again, a little harder. She heard movement inside. A light flicked on, and then footsteps approaching the door. The inner wooden door opened, and then the outer metal security gate, unlocked with a loud, grating clank. Maria stood in the doorway, her hair wrapped in a scarf, her face full of sleep and confusion. Who is it at this time of night? She mumbled, her eyes blinking to adjust to the darkness. She saw the figure huddled by the gate. Her sleepy confusion vanished, replaced by a sharp, sudden intake of breath. Jesus, Maria whispered, her eyes widening in pure shock. She stared, her mind struggling to process the sight. She saw the disheveled clothes, the bare, dirty feet, the small, sad bag clutched in a white-knuckled grip. And then as Hannah looked up, Maria saw her face. The left side of Hannah's cheek was swollen, a dark, angry purple already forming. Her eyes were red and raw, her lips cracked. Hannah, Maria's voice was barely a whisper. "Oh my God, Hannah, what happened to you?" The sound of her friend's voice, the first note of kindness, of simple human compassion she had heard in hours, broke the last thread of Hannah's control. She couldn't speak. She couldn't explain. She just fell forward, collapsing into Maria's arms, and a wail of such profound animalistic grief tore from her throat that it seemed to come from the very earth itself. Maria, her shock instantly turning to a fierce protective anger, grabbed her. "She, my sister. I have you. Come inside. Come inside. Now." She pulled Hannah inside, locking the gate and the door behind them, shutting out the dark street. She guided Hannah's shaking body to the living room sofa. Hannah collapsed onto it, her sobs uncontrollable, shaking the very cushions. "He beat me," Hannah finally choked out, the words ripped from her. "He threw me out, Maria, he threw me out of my own home. Samuel, he said I should leave." Maria didn't speak for a moment. She just stared at Hannah's face, her own expression hardening into one of cold fury. "That animal," she whispered. She went to the kitchen, her movements quick and angry. She returned with a bowl of warm water and a clean cloth. She knelt in front of Hannah, gently pushing her hands away from her face. "Let me see," she commanded softly. She began to dab at the swollen cheek, and Hannah winced, new tears streaming. "He did this to you? That beast? He did this?" Hannah could only nod, her body rocking back and forth. "My children," she wept, the word tearing her apart. "Maria, he kept my children. They were screaming for me. Joyce and Ben. They were holding me. And he dragged me away from them. He threw me out and left my babies inside." Maria pulled her friend into a tight, fierce hug. "Stop crying. Stop crying, my sister. You are safe now. You are here with me." She held her until the violent sobs began to quiet into ragged, hiccuping breaths. She helped Hannah sit up, brought her a glass of water, and made her drink. "You can stay here as long as you want, Hannah. Do you hear me? This is your home now. Forget that man. He is not a man. He is a monster. He doesn't deserve you. He never ever deserved you." Hannah shook her head, her gaze distant, lost. "Maria, it hurts so much." Her voice was a raw whisper. "I gave him everything. I gave him my youth. I built him from the dust. I sold a car on the street for him. I suffered with him. I prayed for him. And now he treats me like trash, like I am nothing." Maria gripped her friend's hands, her knuckles white. "Listen to me, Hannah. Look at me." She waited until Hannah's tear-filled eyes met hers. "You are not nothing. You are the strongest woman I have ever known. That man is the fool. He is the one who is nothing. Sometimes," she said, her voice softening, "sometimes this terrible pain is God's way of opening a new door, a door to something better. You will rise again, Hannah. I know you will. You just have to be strong, not for him. You owe him nothing. You must be strong for yourself, and for those children." Hannah looked up at her friend, her eyes full of a new, raw sorrow. "How?" she whispered. "How can I be strong when my children are not with me? How can I even sleep tonight, knowing they are in that house, with him? What if he's angry at them too?" Maria's heart broke. She had no easy answers. "We will find a way," she said, her voice full of a conviction she didn't entirely feel. "I promise you, we will find a way. But for tonight you must rest. You are safe. You are not alone. Do you hear me, Hannah? You are not alone." Hannah looked around the small, peaceful living room. It was not big, it was not fancy, but it was safe. She leaned on her friend, her body trembling with exhaustion. The sobs had finally stopped, leaving behind a cold, hollow emptiness. But in that emptiness, the small, warm light of Maria's kindness was the only thing keeping her from disappearing completely. While Hannah was crying at her friend's house, a new, cold reality was setting in at the home she had been thrown out of. Samuel, his rage having cooled into a sullen, prideful silence, had shoved his children, Joyce and Ben, into their room and slammed the door. "Stay there and be quiet," he had roared. Joyce, her small body trembling, immediately pulled her brother into the wardrobe, and they huddled together in the darkness. They sat on a pile of their father's shoes, their hearts pounding in unison. Ben was sobbing, his face buried in his sister's dress, his small hands clutching her. "Shaq, Ben," Joyce whispered, her own voice shaking. "It's okay. He's just angry. He hurt Mommy," Ben wept. "He hit her. I saw it. I want Mommy." "I know," Joyce whispered, tears streaming silently down her own face. "I know. Just be quiet now. He'll be less angry if we are quiet." They sat there for what felt like hours. The house, which had always been filled with the sounds of Hannah's cooking, her soft humming, or the television, was now terrifyingly silent. All they could hear was the heavy, angry tread of their father's footsteps, pacing back and forth in the living room. Thud, thud, thud. And then the new sharp clack, clack, clack of a sound they didn't recognize. A woman's high heels on their tiled floor. Samuel wasted no time. That same week, claiming he couldn't live in a house without a woman's touch, he brought Chloe into their home. The neighbors were shocked. Their whispers were loud enough to be heard over the fences. "Ah, this man didn't even wait. He hasn't even let his wife's side of the bed grow cold. He replaced her like she never existed." Chloe arrived not with a small bag, but with 3 massive, expensive-looking suitcases. Joyce and Ben watched from their bedroom window as Samuel carried them in, his face set in a strange, hard expression they didn't recognize. Chloe walked into the house not as a guest, but as a conqueror. She wore a bright yellow dress that was short and tight, and her long, straight hair swung behind her like a curtain. The first thing she did was spray the air with her own perfume. The heavy, sweet, artificial scent instantly overpowered the faint, lingering smell of Hannah's cooking spices and the clean, simple soap she used. To the children, it smelled like poison. It was the smell of the woman who had made their mother cry. She sat on Hannah's chair in the living room. She used Hannah's kitchen, complaining about the pots. And that night, she slept in Hannah's bed. When Joyce and Ben came home from school the next day, full of a dreadful, heavy sadness, they found her sitting on the sofa, painting her long red nails. She didn't get up. She just looked at them, her head tilted, a small sly smile on her lips. "So," she said, her voice smooth and bored. "These are the brats." Joyce froze, her hand gripping Ben's. Ben hid behind his sister's leg. "Who are you?" Joyce asked, her voice small but defiant. Chloe laughed, a high, thin sound that didn't sound like laughter at all. "I am your daddy's new woman. You can call me Auntie Chloe. Go and take your bath. You are smelling of school." Ben's head peeked out. "You are not our mommy," he shouted, his voice high with a child's pure, unfiltered truth. "Our mommy is Hannah." The smile on Chloe's face tightened, but only for a second. She turned to Samuel, who had just walked in from the bedroom. "Samuel, darling, your children are being rude." Samuel raised his voice, the angry, unfamiliar thunder returning. "Enough, you two. You will respect her. She is your new mommy now. Do you understand me?" The children stared at their father. This was the ultimate betrayal. He had not only thrown their mother out, he was trying to erase her. They both began to cry, not loud sobs, but the deep, heartbreaking, silent tears of children who have lost their entire world. Joyce grabbed Ben's hand and ran to their room sobbing. "We want mommy. We want mommy." Samuel made a move to go after them, but Chloe put a hand on his chest. "Let them cry, baby," she whispered, looking up at him through her long eyelashes. "They'll get used to me soon. Children are resilient. Just forget that fat woman. She's gone for good." Samuel nodded silently, but he couldn't meet Chloe's eyes. He turned away, pretending to check his phone. Deep inside, a small cold shadow of guilt crept into his heart, but he crushed it down with his pride. He had made his choice. From that day, the house changed completely. The once warm, happy home, filled with the smell of amala and the sound of laughter, turned into a cold, silent, alien place. Chloe moved around like a queen. She ordered new modern furniture, black and white and silver, with sharp edges. She changed the curtains, replacing Hannah's warm, colorful wrappers with thin, gray blinds. The first things to go were Hannah's pictures. Joyce came out of her room one morning to find Chloe holding their family wedding photo. In it, Samuel was smiling, holding Hannah tightly, and Hannah was laughing, her face full of joy. Chloe was looking at it with an expression of pure disgust. "My God," Chloe muttered to herself. She was even fatter then. How did he stand it? She didn't see Joyce standing in the hallway. She took the photo, walked to the kitchen, and dropped it into the trash bin, on top of old vegetable peelings. Joyce's breath caught in her throat. She felt like she couldn't breathe. She ran back to her room, her heart pounding. Her mother was in the trash. Her father had let this strange, cruel woman throw her mother in the trash. The laughter in the house was gone. The children rarely smiled. They spoke only in whispers. Joyce had stopped eating well. The new food was all wrong. Chloe didn't cook. She ordered expensive takeout that was spicy and oily. Or she tried to make continental dishes that tasted like nothing. Ben cried every single night, but he had learned to do it silently, burying his face in his pillow, his small body shaking. "I want mommy," he would whisper into the darkness. Sometimes, when Samuel sat at the new cold glass dining table, he would have a flicker of memory. He would almost hear Hannah's voice in his head, her gentle, "Darling, your food is ready. Come and eat before it gets cold." But when he looked up, it was Chloe, sitting opposite him, scrolling through her phone, her red nails tapping on the screen. "Samuel," she said one night, not looking up, "you think too much these days. You're boring. Are you actually missing that woman?" Samuel frowned, his guilt flashing into anger. "What kind of stupid question is that?" "Of course not." Chloe smirked. "Good, I'm just asking. You better forget her completely. I don't want her name mentioned in this house ever again. And control those kids. They keep looking at me like I'm a monster. I'm not their maid, you know." Samuel looked at her beautiful cold face, and for a fleeting second, he felt a deep, sharp unease. But he said nothing. He had made his bed. The children were the ones who suffered the most. They became shadows in their own home. Precious would wake up in the middle of the night, her heart pounding from a nightmare, and she would run to her father's room, crying, "Daddy, I want mommy." But Chloe would sit up, her hair wrapped in a silk scarf. "Samuel, you better control those brats. I'm trying to sleep. I don't want to hear that woman's name in this house again." And Samuel, trapped between his guilt and his new partner, would shout at his own child, "Joyce, enough. Go back to sleep. Don't you ever mention your mother again." From that day, Joyce and Ben stopped talking much at all. They became quiet and sad, moving through the house like ghosts. They spent all their time in their room, whispering to each other, holding hands. One evening, as they lay in their beds in the darkness, Ben said softly, his voice trembling, "Sister, do you think mommy is ever coming back?" Daddy said not to say her name. Joyce was quiet for a long time. She was staring at the ceiling, where a crack used to be in their old one-room apartment. This new ceiling was perfect and white, but she hated it. She turned on her side to face her brother. "She will," Joyce whispered, her voice fierce with a desperate 8-year-old certainty. "He can say what he wants, but mommy promised." She wiped a tear from her own cheek. "Mommy never ever breaks her promise." One afternoon, Maria brought a plate of jollof rice to the sofa, where Hannah sat staring at the wall. "Hannah, you must eat something," she insisted, her voice gentle but firm. "You have been crying since morning. You haven't eaten a proper meal in days." Hannah looked down at the food, the rich, orange color and savory smell, only making her stomach churn. I'm not hungry, Maria, she whispered. I can't. Every time I try to swallow, I think of them. My babies. Are they eating? Is that woman being cruel to them? Does Ben cry for me at night? Maria sighed, sitting beside her and taking her hands. The hands were softer now, no longer chapped from washing or burned by hot oil, but they were trembling. Hannah, you have to stop punishing yourself. Crying won't feed them. Being weak won't help them. That man, that animal, he doesn't deserve your tears. You are beautiful, you are strong, and you are kind. Don't let his hateful words kill your spirit. You need to be strong, not for him, but for Joyce and Ben. Hannah smiled weakly the first time in days. I want my children, Maria. That's all that matters to me. Maria's eyes softened. She held Hannah's hands tightly. You will have them back one day, my sister. I know you will. No storm lasts forever. Just keep praying, but also keep your eyes open. God helps those who help themselves. You will hold your children in your arms again. A few days later, on a hot Saturday afternoon, there was a small, hesitant knock at Maria's gate. It was not the angry, thundering knock of Samuel. Maria and Hannah, who were inside trying to mend some of Maria's old clothes, both froze. Who is that? Maria whispered. Hannah's heart began to pound. Maybe it's him. Come to apologize. Maria shook her head, her face hardening. Don't hope for that. She went to the door, looked through the peephole, and her jaw dropped. Jesus, she whispered, fumbling with the keys. She unlocked the metal gate. Standing on the doorstep, looking small, dusty, and terrified, were Joyce and Ben. Mommy, Ben screamed the moment he saw her. Hannah, who had followed Maria to the door, let out a sound that was half scream, half sob. My babies! The children ran past Maria and into her arms, nearly knocking her over. Hannah fell to her knees, pulling them into a desperate, crushing hug, burying her face in their hair, kissing their faces, their necks, over and over again. Tears rolled down her cheeks like rain, not of sadness this time, but of a relief so profound it was painful. My babies! Oh, my babies! How did you get here? I missed you. I missed you so much. Joyce, ever the serious one, was crying too, but she explained. That woman, Chloe, she went out shopping. She locked us in, but I know how to open the back door latch. We ran. I saved my transport money from school, and I remembered the name of Auntie Maria's street. We took a taxi. We wanted to see you, Mommy. Maria came out from the kitchen, her own eyes wet. Jesus, these children are brave. Come, let me make you food. You look hungry. Hannah just held them, rocking back and forth on the floor. You are safe, she whispered. You are safe with me. She looked at them sadly. Does your father know you came? Ben shook his head, his face terrified. No, Mommy, please don't tell him. He will beat us. He's always angry. Hannah hugged them again, her heart breaking. Don't worry, you'll be safe here. But deep inside, a cold dread settled over her. She knew this fragile peace wouldn't last. It didn't. That evening, just as the sun was setting, a car screeched to a halt outside the gate. A fist pounded on the metal. Maria, open this gate. I know she is in there. I know my children are here. It was Samuel. His voice was thick with rage. Hannah grabbed the children, pulling them behind her. Maria stood in front of them all, her arms crossed, and opened the door. Samuel pushed his way in. His eyes were red, his expensive suit rumpled. He saw Hannah, his face contorted with anger. And then he saw Joyce and Ben hiding behind her. His face changed instantly. So, he shouted, pointing a finger at Hannah, this is your plan. You came here to steal my children. You think I don't know your tricks? You want to destroy my home again? Hannah quickly stood up, wiping her tears, pushing her children behind her. Samuel, please stop shouting. You are scaring them. I didn't take them. They came on their own. They missed me. Liar, he roared. You. Before he could take another step, little Joyce stepped out from behind her mother. Her small body was trembling, but her eyes were full of a fire that matched her father's. Daddy, she's not lying, Joyce shouted, her high-pitched voice echoing in the small room. We came on our own. I know this place. Mommy used to bring us here to visit Auntie Maria when you were still nice. We hate that woman. She's cruel. We want our mommy. Samuel froze for a moment, staring at his daughter. He was momentarily stunned by her defiance. His anger faltered, and a deep, cutting wave of guilt washed over him. But his pride, that terrible, strong pride, wouldn't let him back down. Maria quickly stepped in front of Hannah. Samuel, that's enough. Can't you see what your pride is doing? These children need their mother. You have terrorized them enough. Leave. Samuel glared at her. Stay out of this, Maria. This is between me and my wife. Hannah looked at him, her tears starting again, but her voice was firm. You still call me your wife? After all the pain? After the insults? After you threw me out like a stranger and put another woman in my bed? Samuel looked away, his heart trembling. He saw his children clinging to their mother, looking at him not with love, but with fear. Something deep inside him began to melt, but pride, stubborn and powerful, kept his lips sealed. He had come to retrieve his property, and he had been defeated by an 8-year-old. Without saying another word, he turned, his shoulders slumped, and walked out, slamming the gate so hard it rattled on its hinges. He had left his children. That night, Hannah held her children close as they slept on a mat beside her. She kissed their foreheads and whispered, "No matter what happens, I'll always fight for you." Having her children back gave her a new fierce strength. The despair was replaced by a sharp, urgent need to provide. A few days later, on a bright Monday morning, Maria came home from work for her lunch break, excitement written all over her face. She waved a paper in the air. "Hannah, guess what?" she shouted. "My company is hiring. They need a new receptionist and secretary for the front desk. I told my boss about you, that you are educated and responsible. He said you should come tomorrow for an interview." Hannah gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Me? A secretary? Maria, I haven't worked in an office in almost 10 years. I don't know if I can." Maria shook her. "Don't start that. You are smart. You are hard-working. I know you can do it. Just go and show them who you are. We need this, Hannah. The children need this." The next day, Hannah woke up early. Her heart was beating fast, a drum of pure nerves. She wore a simple but neat gown Maria had loaned her. She brushed her hair, held her small bag, and said a short, desperate prayer before leaving the house. When she arrived at the office, she was intimidated. It was clean, air-conditioned, and busy. The manager, a kind-looking older man, called her in. He looked at her application. "It says here you haven't been in formal employment for 9 years, he said, not unkindly. "No, sir," Hannah said, her voice shaking slightly. "I have been raising my family." "I see. And you believe you can handle the stress of a front desk? The computers, the phones, the clients?" "Yes, sir," she said, her voice gaining a bit of strength. "I am a fast learner, and I am a very, very hard worker. I need this job, sir. I won't let you down." The manager looked at her for a long moment. He saw the desperation, but he also saw the intelligence and the quiet, solid determination in her eyes. He smiled. "You look like someone who knows her work," he said. "Can you start tomorrow?" Hannah's face lit up. The relief was so sudden she almost cried. "Yes, sir. Oh yes. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you." That evening, she came back home dancing with joy. She burst through the door, picked up Joyce and Ben, and spun them around. "My babies, guess what? Mommy got a job. Mommy got a job." The kids jumped and clapped their hands. "Yay, Mommy got a job." Hannah laughed and cried at the same time. For the first time since Samuel had slapped her, she felt hope, real, tangible hope. She looked at her children and said softly, "From today, no one will ever hurt us again. I'll work hard, and I will protect you with my life." Ben smiled proudly. "Mommy, you're the strongest woman in the world." Meanwhile, Samuel's world, the one he had chosen, was slowly but surely falling apart. Now that the children were gone, the house was empty, save for him and Chloe. And without the buffer of the children, Chloe's true nature, which he had ignored for so long, was on full display. She no longer treated him like a king. She spent his money with a reckless, frantic speed. She complained about everything. "Samuel," she said one morning, filing her nails at the glass dining table, "I'm tired of this house. It's so boring. Why don't you take me on trips like other rich men do? Dubai, Paris?" Samuel sighed, rubbing his temples. A big project at work was failing, and his bosses were not happy. "Chloe, I'm busy. I have meetings and projects to handle. I can't just drop everything." She rolled her eyes. "Busy, busy, busy. When you were chasing me, you weren't too busy to take me to expensive hotels. You've become boring." Sometimes she would insult him if he didn't give her money fast enough. "Is it not me that makes you look good?" she snapped. "Without me you're just an old man in a suit." Samuel was shocked. Old man. No one had ever talked to him like that before, not even Hannah, in their poorest days. At night, lying in the big cold bed, he thought of Hannah again. He remembered her patience, her quiet strength, her kindness. He remembered how she used to bring him food with a smile and say, "Darling, please eat before it gets cold." Chloe never cooked. She ordered food and left the plastic containers on the table for the maid to clean. He sighed deeply in the darkness. "I didn't know peace until I lost it." But his pride, that massive suffocating pride, wouldn't let him admit it out loud. One Friday evening, Samuel decided to come home earlier than usual. He felt a desperate need to fix things, to reconnect with Chloe, to pretend that the life he had chosen was the right one. He wanted to surprise her, but the moment he opened the front door, he froze. The house was quiet, too quiet, and then he heard it. Laughter. It was coming from the living room. It was Chloe's high-pitched laugh, mingled with a deep male voice. His blood ran cold. Slowly, silently, he walked down the hallway. What he saw made his heart stop. Chloe was sitting on his couch, wearing a short silk nightdress. She was laughing, her head thrown back. Sitting next to her, his arm casually slung around her shoulder, was another man, a younger man. They were sharing a bottle of his most expensive wine. "Chloe," Samuel shouted. His voice didn't sound like his own. It was a strangled, broken sound. She turned, her eyes wide in shock. But the shock was instantly replaced by a cold, hard frown. "Oh," she said, not even bothering to move the man's arm. "You're back early." Samuel's voice shook. "Who is this man? In my house, sitting on my chair." The man stood up nervously. "Bro, calm down. It's not, don't call me bro," Samuel roared. "What are you doing in my house?" Chloe stood up, rolling her eyes, her face a mask of contempt. "Stop shouting, Samuel. You'll scare the neighbors." "He's just a friend. I was bored. I just needed some company." "Company?" Samuel's body trembled. "In my living room. While you're half-dressed?" "Chloe, after everything I gave you, my home, my peace, my money, you bring a man into my house?" Chloe smirked. It was a cruel, ugly expression. My, your house. Please don't act like a saint, Samuel. You threw your fat wife out, the mother of your children, and you ran to me. Remember?" She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a vicious, taunting whisper. "You broke her heart for me. Now you're crying because I'm doing to you exactly what you did to her. You are the fool, Samuel, not me." The words hit Samuel like thunder. His chest tightened. He couldn't breathe. He saw it all, the entire ugly truth of his life. He had thrown away gold for this. Tears filled his eyes. Without another word, he turned around, stumbling, and walked out, slamming the door behind him. He got into his car. His mind was blank, his heart heavy with a regret, so vast it was suffocating. He could still hear Chloe's cruel words echoing in his head. "You threw your fat wife out. Now you're crying." He saw Hannah's face clearly in his mind, her smile, her kindness, her love, even when they had nothing. He saw her face after he had slapped her, the shock and the pain. A tear rolled down his cheek. "What have I done?" he whispered. He started the engine and pressed harder on the accelerator, the powerful engine roaring in response. He sped into the night, not knowing where he was going, only that he was running. The rain began to fall, not a gentle shower, but a sudden, angry downpour. The road became slippery. the city lights blurring into long wet streaks. Then suddenly, out of a dark side street, a huge truck, its headlights off, pulled out directly in front of him. Samuel tried to swerve. He wrenched the wheel, his eyes wide with terror. But it was too late. The tires screamed on the wet asphalt. The sound of metal tearing filled the air. The car spun like a top and slammed, with horrific force, into a concrete utility pole. Glass shattered everywhere. Then everything went silent. Everything went dark. News of the accident spread quickly, as bad news always does. The phone rang in Thomas's house, shrill and demanding in the late-night quiet, cutting through the sound of the rain. He picked it up, his voice heavy with sleep. "Hello." The voice on the other end was a frantic stranger. Then a police officer. "Mr. Thomas, your brother, Samuel. A terrible accident on the expressway. He's been taken to General Hospital." Thomas dropped the phone. His heart seized, a cold fist of fear gripping his chest. Oh God, not Samuel. Please, not this. He fumbled for his keys, his hands shaking so badly he could barely fit the key in his car's ignition. He drove through the rain-slicked Lagos streets, his mind a blur of prayer and panic. He was a fool. He was arrogant. He was proud. But he is my brother. God, please don't let him die. Please give him one more chance. He ran into the hospital, the smell of antiseptic and bleach hitting him like a physical wall. The floors were too white, the fluorescent lights too bright, buzzing with an indifferent hum. He ran straight to the reception, his voice hoarse. "My brother, Samuel. He was brought here. An accident." The nurse looked up from her desk, her face tired. "Room 206, sir. Intensive care. But the doctor is with him right now." Thomas didn't wait. He hurried down the long white corridor, his shoes echoing on the floor. His heart felt heavy, his hands cold and damp. When he reached the ward, he stopped at the door, staring at the sight before him. A doctor was standing over the bed, making notes on a chart, and on the bed was Samuel, or what was left of him. He looked small, pale, and utterly broken. His head was wrapped in white bandages. Both of his legs were covered in thick white plaster, suspended in a web of wires and pulleys. Machines beeped softly beside him. This was nothing like the proud, strong, arrogant man Thomas had confronted in the office. Thomas swallowed hard and whispered, "Oh, my brother, what have you done to yourself?" The doctor turned around. "Good afternoon, sir. Are you the patient's relative?" Thomas nodded quickly, his throat tight. "Yes, I'm his elder brother. Please, how is he? Will he be okay?" The doctor, a kind-faced man with exhaustion in his eyes, sighed. "He is very, very lucky to be alive. The car is a total loss. He survived, but..." Thomas's heart sank. "But what? What is it, doctor?" The doctor replied gently. The impact was severe. His 2 legs were badly injured, crushed in the wreckage, especially the left one. "We did everything we could. He was in surgery for 7 hours. With time, a lot of intensive therapy, and proper care, he will be able to walk again, but it will not be soon, not for a very long time." Thomas frowned, his mind struggling to understand. "Doctor, what do you mean, not soon?" "For now, he won't be able to walk at all," the doctor said plainly. "He will be in a wheelchair for many months. We have to wait for the bones to heal before therapy can even begin. It will be a long, difficult road." Thomas stood still for a moment, speechless. He leaned against the wall, the sterile white corridor spinning, his eyes filled with tears. A wheelchair, his proud brother, who had mocked his wife, who had strutted like a king, in a wheelchair. The doctor patted his shoulder softly. "Be thankful he survived, sir. God gave him a second chance." Thomas nodded slowly, his heart heavy. He sat in the chair beside the bed, watching his brother breathe, and he prayed silently until he saw Samuel's fingers twitch. His eyes flickered open. He blinked, his gaze unfocused. The world was blurry. The antiseptic smell, the beeping, a dull, throbbing pain in his head, but nothing else. Where? Samuel whispered, his voice a dry rasp. Thomas leaned closer. Samuel, Samuel, can you hear me? Samuel's eyes focused on his brother. Thomas, what? What happened? The truck. You're in the hospital, Thomas said gently. You had an accident, a bad one. But you're alive, Samuel. You're alive. Samuel frowned, his mind still foggy. He tried to move. He tried to sit up. Nothing happened. A new cold panic washed over him. He looked down and saw the monstrous white casts. My legs, he whispered, his eyes widening. Brother, I can't feel my legs. Thomas took a deep, painful breath. The doctor said they were badly injured. Samuel, crushed, they operated. But, don't worry, with therapy, you'll walk again. For now, I can't feel them. Samuel cried, his voice cracking with terror. Thomas, why can't I feel my legs? For now, Thomas said softly, you will have to use a wheelchair. Samuel's eyes filled with tears. A wheelchair, he whispered. No, it can't be. Not me, not me. He turned his face away, his shoulders shaking, and the proud man who had laughed at others' pain began to taste his own. Silent tears rolled down his bandaged temples. A cripple. My God, I'm a cripple. After 3 long, agonizing weeks, Samuel was finally discharged. His body was weak, his legs were useless, and his heart was full of a deep, dark shame. Thomas, who had visited every day, came that morning to take him home. The nurse rolled him out in a new, unfamiliar wheelchair. Thomas helped him into the car. A slow, painful, humiliating process. Samuel winced, not just from the physical pain, but from the indignity. The ride home was quiet. Samuel just stared out the window, watching people walk, children play, cars speed by, all things he couldn't do. Tears rolled silently down his cheeks. When they got to the house, Thomas parked and helped his brother into the wheelchair. Chloe was inside. She was not waiting anxiously by the door. She was on the sofa, painting her nails, loud music playing. Thomas called out, "We're home." Chloe didn't answer immediately. She took her time finishing her makeup before walking lazily into the living room. Her eyes met Samuel's in the wheelchair, and her perfectly drawn eyebrows frowned. "Oh," she said, her voice flat. "You're back." Samuel looked down. "Yes," the doctor said. "I'll be using this wheelchair for some time." Chloe crossed her arms. "That's your business." Thomas stared at her in disbelief. "That's all you have to say? That's your business?" She shrugged, blowing on her wet nails. "What else should I say? Welcome." "Fine. Welcome." Thomas clenched his fists, trying to stay calm. "I helped bring him home. He will need care. Chloe, someone to cook for him, give him his drugs, and help him move around." Chloe rolled her eyes. "And why are you telling me?" Thomas's patience snapped. "Because you are the woman living with him. You are the one who took his wife's place. Isn't that obvious?" Chloe laughed. It was a cold, mocking, ugly sound. "Wait, are you serious? Are you trying to leave this man here for me to take care of? Do I look like his wife to you? Do I look like a nurse? You must be joking." "Chloe," Thomas said, his voice hard. "Is he not your man? You are the reason his wife left. You told him to throw her out. Now you want to abandon him when he needs you most." "I didn't force him," she hissed, standing up. "That was his choice. He invited me to stay because he had money, and I was beautiful. He didn't marry me, so don't you dare expect me to turn into a maid for your brother, just because he was stupid enough to crash his car." Thomas looked at Samuel. His brother was sitting silently in the wheelchair, his head bowed, tears of humiliation gathering in his eyes. "You see, Samuel," Thomas said, his voice thick with anger and pity. "You see who you threw your wife away for. The woman you called your queen. She is showing you her true color." Samuel couldn't speak. He just choked on a sob. Thomas shook his head sadly. I warned you that pride would blind you. I have to go. I will come and check on you later. But remember, Samuel, this is the fruit of your actions." He walked out. That evening, the house was quiet. Samuel sat alone in his wheelchair, staring at the wall. His legs hurt, but his heart hurt more. He called out softly, "Chloe, Chloe, please. I need my drugs. I'm hungry." She stormed out of the bedroom, her face a mask of anger. "Samuel, I am not your maid. You better find someone to do all these things for you." "Chloe, please," he begged, his voice breaking. "Just help me make small food so I can take my medicine. Please." She folded her arms. "I need money. I want to fix my hair tomorrow and buy some things." Samuel swallowed hard. "Chloe, I don't have money right now. The hospital bills, the car, it cost me everything I had. My savings are gone. The company has put me on medical leave. I don't have it." Chloe laughed. "Broke? You're broke? So you are broke and a cripple? Then there is no reason for me to be here. You can't provide for me anymore. So what am I doing here?" Samuel's eyes widened in terror. "Chloe, don't say that. You can't leave me like this. I need you." But she was already walking to the wardrobe, pulling out her expensive suitcases. She began packing her clothes. Samuel wheeled himself frantically to the bedroom door. "Chloe, please, don't do this. Where will I go? What will I do?" She turned, zipping up her bag. Her face was cold. "You should have thought of that before you threw your wife out. The fat one. I am not your wife, Samuel. I don't owe you anything." He reached out a trembling hand. "Please." She ignored him, picked up her bags, and walked to the front door without looking back. The door slammed hard. Samuel sat there, motionless, staring at the door. He had lost everything: his wife, his children, his legs, his money, and now the woman he thought loved him. Tears poured down his face as he whispered, "Oh God, what have I done to myself?" The next day, Thomas came to check on him. He found Samuel in the same spot, staring at the same wall. The house was cold and empty. "Where is she?" Thomas asked, already knowing the answer. "She left," Samuel whispered. "She said I was broke." Thomas sighed deeply. "I don't blame her, Samuel. I blame you. I warned you. You chased away the only woman who ever truly loved you, the woman who suffered with you when you had nothing. You threw away gold, Samuel. You threw away pure gold for this dust." Samuel covered his face and began to cry, the loud, gut-wrenching sobs of a broken man. "You are right, brother," he wept. "I have realized my mistake. Every night I see Hannah's face. I see her crying. I see my children calling me. I am so empty." Thomas placed a hand on his shoulder. "Pride is a dangerous thing, Samuel. You mocked your wife, but that same woman carried your pain for years. I destroyed my life." Samuel wept. "Please, please, brother, help me. Take me to Hannah. Please find her. I need to beg her for forgiveness. I don't expect her to come back. I don't deserve her, but I cannot live like this. Let me just tell her I am sorry. Please, Thomas. Even if she spits in my face, let me tell her I am sorry." Thomas nodded slowly. "It won't be easy, but I'll talk to her. I'll tell her what has happened. I just hope it's not too late." "I don't care," Samuel whispered. "I just want her to forgive me. I can't sleep at night." Thomas sighed sadly, looking at his broken brother, helpless in a wheelchair, alone in an empty house. "Rest now," he said. "I'll go and find her." He stepped outside, looked up at the sky, and whispered, "God, please, touch Hannah's heart. Let her forgive him. He has learned his lesson." She was at her new job. The office was not the grand glass and marble palace that Samuel had occupied, but it was clean, bright, and busy. Hannah sat at a reception desk, a telephone headset on, typing a letter with a focused, professional efficiency. The rhythmic, steady clack-clack-a-clack of her keyboard was a sound of new competence, a sound of a life being rebuilt, piece by piece. She looked up when she sensed someone standing in front of her desk and her hands froze on the keyboard. Her first, instant reaction was fear. Her heart leaped into her throat, cold and sharp. "The children." "Brother Thomas," she said softly, her voice suddenly breathless. She quickly pulled the headset off. "What is it? Is something wrong? Is it Joyce? Is it Ben?" Thomas smiled sadly. His presence, usually a comfort, now felt ominous. "No, no, Hannah," he said quickly, gently. "The children are fine. They are not the reason I am here. But, can we talk? Somewhere private?" Hannah looked at her supervisor, who nodded. She logged off her computer, her hands trembling slightly. Her fear for the children subsided, replaced by a deep, cold dread. If it's not the children, then it's him. They sat on a small concrete bench outside the office building, the sounds of Lagos traffic providing a distant, rumbling backdrop. Thomas looked at her, his eyes full of a deep, complicated sorrow. He saw the new confidence in her, but also the familiar tiredness around her eyes, the lines of a pain that had not fully healed. "Hannah," he began, his voice low, "I know my brother hurt you. He hurt you in a way that is unforgivable. He insulted you, he mocked you, he abandoned you, and he abandoned his own children. I have been so ashamed of him." He paused, taking a deep breath. "But God has dealt with him in his own way, Hannah." Hannah looked at him, her heart pounding a slow, heavy beat. "What do you mean? What has happened?" Thomas's voice softened, and he couldn't quite meet her eyes. "Samuel had a terrible accident, Hannah. A car crash, a truck. It was very bad. He's been in the hospital for weeks." Hannah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Jesus! Oh my God! Is he alive?" The question was instinctive, a reflex from the woman who had loved him for so long, even though the man she loved had died long before any car crash. Thomas nodded slowly. "Yes, he is alive. He is very, very lucky to be alive." He hesitated, searching for the words. "But he is broken, Hannah. Not just in his body, but in his spirit. The doctors, they said his legs were crushed. They did everything they could, but he can't walk, Hannah. He won't be able to walk for a very long time. He is in a wheelchair." Hannah just stared at him. The sounds of the street, the honking horns, the people chattering as they passed, it all faded into a distant roar. She processed the words one by one. Accident, crushed, can't walk, wheelchair. A storm of emotions, violent and contradictory, ripped through her. The first was a cold, sharp, terrible flash of justice. A voice in the darkest part of her mind whispered, "Good. The man who called my body disgusting, who stood on his own two strong legs and mocked me, is now broken himself. The man who walked out on me can no longer walk at all." The thought was so ugly, so venomous, that she felt a wave of nausea. She was instantly ashamed. She squeezed her eyes shut. "No, God, don't let me be that person." And then the shame was washed away by a wave of something else, something she hadn't expected, a deep, profound and hollow pity. This was Samuel, the father of her children, the man she had once carried on her back. Tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of sadness for him, or for herself. They were tears for the sheer terrible waste of it all. But he is alone," she whispered. Already knowing the answer, Thomas nodded, his face grim. "That woman, Chloe, she stayed with him only long enough to find out his money was gone. The hospital bills, the failed project at his work, he lost everything. The moment she realized he was broke and would need to be cared for, she packed her bags and left him. He is all alone in that empty house. He has nothing, Hannah. No money, no legs, no family, nothing but his pride. And even that is gone." Thomas reached out and gently held her hand. "He asked me to find you. He asked me to beg you to forgive him." Hannah pulled her hand away, wiping her tears, but these were angry tears now. "Forgive him," she said, her voice rising. "Forgiveness, Brother Thomas, I suffered. That man made me feel like I wasn't human. He took my love, my loyalty, my life, and he threw it in the trash like that picture of me. He threw me out like trash. My children cried every night. I cried every night. The pain he caused, it was too much. I know, my sister. I know," Thomas said softly. "You don't have to go back to him. Nobody is asking you to do that. But you have always had a soft heart, Hannah. A good heart. Don't let this bitterness take over that heart." He doesn't deserve your forgiveness. You are right, but you deserve peace. Forgive him, not for him, but for yourself. Forgiveness is the only way to let that stone go. Don't carry him with you for the rest of your life. Hannah looked down at her hands, the hands that now typed letters and held her children. She thought of the anger she still felt, the heavy hot stone of it that sat in her chest every time she thought of him. She was so tired of carrying it. She took a long shuddering breath and looked up at Thomas. The anger was gone, replaced by a quiet, strong resolve. She had survived. She was strong. He was not. She nodded slowly. You are right. I can't carry this anger forever. It is too heavy. I will forgive him, not because he deserves it, but because I want peace in my heart. Thomas smiled, a look of profound relief on his face. God bless you, Hannah. You are a better woman than he ever deserved. You don't know how proud I am of you. She wiped her eyes one last time, stood up and smoothed her dress. Her hands were steady now. Please, she whispered. Take me to him. Let me see him. The drive to the house was the longest of her life. Her heart was a confused, pounding drum. This was the house she had been dragged from, barefoot and screaming. She was now returning, in her old friend's car, to see the man who had thrown her out. She was terrified, but she also felt calm. The decision was made. Thomas parked the car. He helped her out. Are you ready? He asked. Hannah nodded. I am. Thomas used his own key to open the front door. The moment the door swung open, the smell hit her. It was not the smell of home. It was not the smell of her cooking or her clean laundry. It was the smell of Chloe's stale, sweet perfume, mixed with the sharp, underlying odor of sickness, stale air, and neglect. The house was dark, the expensive gray blinds pulled shut, blocking the afternoon sun. The new sharp-edged furniture was covered in dust. Empty plates and a glass were on the coffee table. And then she saw him. He was sitting in a wheelchair by the window, a sliver of light cutting across his body. He was staring out at the street. He was not the big man anymore. He was small. His expensive suit was gone, replaced by a simple, rumpled shirt. His hair was uncombed. He looked thin, and his face was covered in a rough, patchy beard. He looked more than anything like a stranger. He heard the door open and turned the wheelchair slowly, his face set in a look of irritation, probably expecting Thomas. When he saw her standing in the doorway, not a ghost, not a memory, but Hannah, real and whole, looking at him with clear, sad eyes, his world stopped. Hannah, he whispered. His voice was a dry, broken croak. His lips trembled. His face, which had been a mask of dull apathy, suddenly crumpled. The pride, the anger, the arrogance, it all dissolved in an instant, replaced by a raw, overwhelming wave of shame, so powerful it was visible. He couldn't look at her. His gaze dropped to the floor, to his own useless, cast-covered legs. She stood there, her heart aching, but not with anger, not anymore. All the hatred she had nursed, all the fantasies of revenge, all the anger, it evaporated. It was gone. The man who had hurt her did not exist. In his place was this pathetic, broken, and deeply pitiable creature. She took a slow step into the room, then another. You came, he whispered. His voice choked. Hannah nodded softly. Yes, Samuel. I came. He tried to wipe his eyes, but the tears came faster. Hannah, I don't deserve to look at you. He choked out, his whole body shaking. I don't deserve to even say your name. I wronged you, Hannah. I wronged you in every way. I mocked your body, the body that carried my children, the body that worked to feed me. I insulted your love, the love that built this very house. I threw you out. I hit you. I threw you out like you were nothing. He broke down weeping, a horrible tearing sound that echoed in the empty, cold room. I was blind, Hannah. I was so blind and stupid with pride. I lost everything. I lost my children. I lost my money. I lost my legs. And I lost you. I threw away gold. He wept, repeating Thomas's words, and I picked up sand. Please, please, Hannah, I beg you in the name of God. I can't sleep. I see your face. I see the faces of our children. Please, can you ever forgive me? Hannah's own tears fell. She looked at this broken man, and she felt nothing but the vast, aching pity. She walked over to him, her footsteps silent on the rug, and then, she did something that shocked them both. She knelt. She knelt beside his wheelchair, so she was not looking down on him, but looking up at him. She was on his level, just as she had been when they were on the floor of their one-room apartment. "Samuel," she said, her voice shaking but clear, "look at me." He slowly, agonizingly raised his eyes to hers. "I forgave you even before I came here," she said, her voice soft. "I asked God to give me the strength to say it, and He did. I have carried that pain and that anger for too long. It was too heavy. I am free of it." He covered his face and wept. "I don't deserve it. I don't deserve your kindness. You are gold, Hannah. Pure gold." She touched his hand. It was cold. "You didn't throw away gold, Samuel," she said sadly. You just didn't recognize its value until it was too late." Thomas, who had been standing by the door the entire time, quietly wiped his own tears. He had never seen such a painful, powerful moment. Samuel looked at her, his eyes full of a desperate, hopeless plea. Will you ever come back home?" Hannah looked at Samuel, at this broken, weeping man in the wheelchair who had just asked her, with the desperate hope of a drowning man, if she would ever come back home. A sad, tired smile touched her lips. It was a smile of pity, of exhaustion, and of a strange, new strength. "Come back," she repeated softly. The house was cold. The air was thick with the ghost of Chloe's perfume and the smell of sickness. "Samuel, this is not a home. This is just a house full of sad memories." He looked down, his hope visibly extinguishing. "I know what you need now," she continued, her voice firm but not unkind, "is healing. What we all need, what our children need, is healing. We can't go back to the way things were. That life is over. That marriage is over. The man who threw me out destroyed it." Samuel flinched, but she didn't stop. She had to set the new terms. "I will be here," she said. "I will help you. But let's take things one step at a time. I am not your wife to command. I am not the fat fool you can insult." His face crumpled and she softened her tone. "I am doing this because you are the father of my children. And I am doing this because the man I see before me, I cannot let him rot in this darkness alone. The man I married, the one with the fire in his heart, he is still in there somewhere. Let's try and find him again." Samuel nodded, sobbing softly. Even hearing you say that, it gives me hope." "Thank you, Hannah." Hannah's first act was not one of nursing. It was one of cleansing. The next day she arrived not with medicine, but with her friend Maria. She brought buckets, new sponges, bottles of bleach, and big black trash bags. What is this?" Samuel asked from his corner, as she and Maria threw open all the windows, the heavy, stale air immediately disturbed by the rush of the fresh Lagos breeze. "This is an exorcism," Maria muttered, tying a scarf around her head. Hannah didn't say a word. She went straight to the master bedroom. She stripped the bed of the expensive silk sheets Chloe had bought. She went to the wardrobe, and with a systematic cold efficiency, she began to empty it. She pulled out the tight dresses, the short skirts, the high-heeled shoes, the designer handbags. She stuffed them all into the black bags. Samuel just watched, powerless. He was a king in this house just a month ago. Now he was a spectator in a wheelchair, with no voice, no power. He watched as Hannah found Chloe's half-empty bottles of perfume, the ones that smelled of her, and she dumped them, one by one, into the trash. The glass bottles shattered. The smell was overpowering. Then Hannah stopped. She was in the kitchen, about to empty the trash bin, when she saw it. Buried under old food, just as Joyce had seen, was their wedding photo. The glass was cracked. A piece of old tomato was stuck to her smiling face. She froze. She lifted it out carefully. Maria saw her and came over. "Just throw it away, my sister. It's a monument to a lie." Hannah looked at the picture for a long, long time. She saw the young man with the hopeful, bright eyes, holding her. She saw her own wide, joyful laugh. "No," she whispered. She wiped the dirt off the glass with her wrapper. He was a lie. But this was real. The joy was real. She gently placed the picture on the clean counter. She looked at Samuel, who had wheeled himself to the kitchen doorway, his face wet with tears, watching her. "We will clean the house," she said, her voice quiet, "and then I will bring the children." A few days later, the house was clean. The smell of bleach and lemon polish had replaced the smell of neglect. Hannah had cooked a large pot of amala soup, and the rich, familiar aroma filled the air for the first time in months. She brought Joyce and Ben. They were hesitant. They walked in slowly, their eyes wide. The house was the same, but different. It was Mommy's house again. Then they saw their father. Ben, who was now 6, hid behind Hannah's legs. He pointed, his voice a small, terrified whisper. "Mommy, what's wrong with Daddy's legs?" Joyce, older and braver, just stared. She looked at her father, small and broken in the chair, and her face, which had been hard with anger for weeks, softened into confusion. Samuel's hands were trembling. He had feared this moment more than the crash itself. "Joyce, Ben," he choked out. "Come here, please." Hannah gently pushed them forward. "Go. It's okay. Say hello to your father." Joyce walked up to him slowly. "Daddy?" she asked, her voice small. You're not angry anymore." Samuel broke down. He shook his head, holding his hands out. "No, my daughter. I am not angry. I am so sorry. I am so sorry for shouting, for sending Mommy away, for everything." That was all they needed. Ben ran forward and hugged his father's leg, careful to avoid the cast. Joyce, her own eyes filling with tears, hugged his shoulders. "Does it hurt, Daddy?" "Yes." Samuel wept, hugging them back. "Yes, my baby. It hurts very much." The house was filled with laughter once more. The sound of children's cartoons, of Joyce doing her homework at the table, of Ben playing with his toys. Hannah kept her job as a secretary. She hired a woman to help in the afternoons, and Thomas helped pay for a physical therapist to come to the house 3 times a week. The healing was slow, and it was agonizing. "I can't," Samuel roared one afternoon. The therapist, a strong, no-nonsense man, was trying to get him to stand using parallel bars set up in the living room. Samuel's arms were shaking, sweat pouring down his face. He had tried to put weight on his left leg, and a jolt of pain, sharp as a knife, had shot up his spine. "It's no use. It hurts. Just let me be. Leave me alone in this chair." He slammed his fist on the arm of his wheelchair, the old, familiar, prideful anger flashing in his eyes. Hannah, who had just come home from work, was standing in the doorway. She was tired. Her feet ached. She looked at him, not with pity, but with a flash of her old fire. "No," she said, her voice cutting through the room. Samuel, the therapist, and the children all turned to look at her. "No," she repeated, walking into the room, and dropping her bag. "I will not leave you alone. We will not let you just be. You think this is hard?" She pointed at his legs. "Do you have any idea what hard is, Samuel? Hard is frying a carrot in the hot sun. Your back breaking pregnant with Ben, while your husband is too proud to find a small job. That was hard. Hard is having the man you love, the man you built, look at you with disgust and call you a bag of rice. That was hard." Her voice was rising, all the old pain pouring out. "Hard is having that man slap you in front of your children. Hard is being dragged out of your home, barefoot, while your babies are screaming for you." She was standing over him now, her eyes blazing. "This," she said, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper, "this is just pain. It will pass. So you will stand up. You will stand up, Samuel. Not for me. You don't owe me that. You will do it for yourself, and you will do it for your children. You will stand up, or you will sit in that chair forever and watch your children grow up being ashamed of their weak father. Your choice." Everyone was silent. The therapist stared. The children were wide-eyed. Samuel looked up at her, at this magnificent, strong, incredible woman. He saw no fat. He saw no bag of rice. He saw a pillar of iron. He saw the lioness who had always protected them, and he was deeply, profoundly ashamed of his own weakness. He nodded. tears of shame rolling down his cheeks. Okay, he whispered, his voice hoarse. Okay, Hannah. He turned to the therapist. Help me up. I will try again. Weeks passed. He tried again and again. He fell. He cried out in pain, but he never ever gave up. He would look at Hannah, who sat at the table helping Joyce with her math, and he would pull himself up again. Then came the day. Months later, the therapist, Hannah, Joyce, and Ben were all watching. He was at the parallel bars. Okay, Samuel, the therapist said. Push up. All your weight on your arms. Samuel grunted, his arms shaking. He was standing. Now, the left foot, just an inch. Shift the weight. He was sweating. His face was contorted in a mask of pure agony. He willed the leg to move. He concentrated, his whole body trembling. He lifted his left foot. It felt like it was made of concrete. He moved it 1 inch, 2 inches. He placed it down. He shifted his weight, letting out a roar of pain and effort. Now the right. He did it. He moved the right foot. He had taken 1 step.